Okay, hello everyone. Good morning, everyone. Today I have great pleasure to have at our seminar Science and Semi-Peripheries two guests, Nerina Sarthou and Federico Vasen from Argentina. And my name is Emanuel Kuczycki, and I'm the head of Scholarly Communication Research Group. Today we meet within the framework of our seminar series, Science and Semi-Peripheries, and Federico and Nerina will provide us a talk entitled The Development of National Researcher Categorization Systems in Latin America. I'm really happy that we can discuss this issue because it's a bird's eye view on research evaluation systems, some parts of those systems in Latin America. During our seminar, we try to focus on various parts of our globe. We are European researchers, we work in Poland, but our seminar is open to all perspectives, and we are extremely interested in science, organization of science, research evaluation, higher education systems at semi-peripheries. So Nerina and Federico, the floor is yours. It's great you join us. I know you have slides and you will share with them us. I just wanted to add that, as I mentioned, you work in Argentina. Nerina works in Universidad Nacional del Centro de la Provincia de Buenos Aires, y Federico works at the Universidad de Buenos Aires. And okay, the floor is yours. And during the seminar, I will let more participants in.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Emmanuel, for the presentation. Federico, if you want to share the screen. Thanks all of you for joining. And it's a pleasure for us to be participating in this series of seminars. Well, this presentation is about what we called National Researcher Categorization Systems, a particular way of research evaluation at the individual level in Latin American countries. Together with my colleague, Federico Vasen, we will present the results of a research that we have done between 2021 and 2022 with other colleagues, and in the context of a grant for research projects of the founding Agency of Research, Development and Innovation of Argentina. This project was coordinated by Federico Vasen, and this presentation highlights the main results of a paper we sent to the journal Research Evaluation, and hopefully it will appear soon. Well, before talking about research evaluation, we think we should highlight some points about science and university in Latin American countries. First of all, teaching at university is not a synonym of doing research at university in our countries. The first thing you should take into account is that the development of academic science in Latin America has been closely linked to the trajectory of its universities. In general terms, in Latin America was favored a professionalist Napoleonic model of higher education in which universities were mainly oriented towards the training of professionals for the social and political life of the country, and only later and subsidiarily did they begin to develop scientific research activities. Although the creation of the first universities can be traced back to the 16th century, it was not until 20th century that their participation in the generation of knowledge was systematically debated. And although some progress was made, the professionalization of academics overall has been slow and remain incomplete. Yes, the session will be recorded. Although some progress, actually the professionalization of academics overall has been slow and remain incomplete, with many professors still working part-time in teaching-only positions. So in the context of higher education systems with these characteristics, specific science policy instruments were designed in order to promote research at university and to create and consolidate a national scientific community. In our research, we introduced the concept of national researcher categorization system to refer to this set of systems that serve this purpose, to promote research at university and to create or consolidate a national scientific community. Our research was prompted by the realization that this type of system, which assigns individual researcher a category through a national assessment process, is common in Latin American countries, but not frequently encountered in other regions of the world. Individually, these systems have been the subject of numerous analyses from the field of higher education, STI studies, and research evaluation, but there are still no comparative studies that analyze this phenomenon jointly and systematically. So the main objective of this work, of this presentation, is therefore to provide an overview and describe the structure of these systems and the characteristics of the recognition and rewards offered to the participating academics. We will also discuss the effects that these systems may have on the structure and on the science and technology system of each country. Next, Fede, please. So we will seek to answer some questions like, how is the evaluation of academics organized in Latin American countries? Is there an approach to researcher categorization that is distinct to the region? What features do the systems analyzed have in common? What structural effects are they likely to induce? When we revised the specific literature on research evaluation systems, we found key authors such as Wiley, who give a definition and a classification of type of evaluation systems, but we've also found that there are axes of discussion on certain dimensions of evaluation systems, such as, for example, centralized or decentralized procedures. For example, some systems were created to reduce favoritisms and inbreeding in university, and thus incorporate an ex-ante and centralized evaluation phase as a prerequisite for applying for tenure positions. In Spain, for example, we found systems of accreditation, and in Italy, we found a system of habilitation. Other topic of discussion is individual or institutional procedures or evaluation. There's research evaluations at individual level, such as the Sexenios in Spain, the National Research Foundation rating in South Africa, and the classification of researchers in New Zealand. Also, accreditation and habilitation are at individual level. But there are also systems at institutional level, such as performance-based research funding systems, very known in European countries. Other topic is the information this system uses as input, qualitative or qualitative information, or both. Other could be also the methodology this system used. While most systems use peer review, some place greater emphasis on the use of indicators and metrics in general, or formulas, for example, such as Australia. Also, based on analysis of case studies, particularly Whiteley and Glasser in their book, they have a known classification according to two dimensions, the direct and indirect impact on resource allocation, and structure and governance. According to the degree or level of this characteristic, they classify research evaluation systems into strong or weak. So we had into account these different dimensions of research evaluation systems and used it to explore the cases in Latin America. What we need to do was to create a working definition to describe what we found in Latin American countries, and we define national research and categorization systems as STI policy instruments that aim to classify and reward individuals conducting scientific research in a given national context. And these instruments shared to a greater or lesser extent these 6 characteristics. Complementary, it means that the system does not offer a primary source of employment. It is a complement for someone who already holds a position in a university or research institution. Hierarchy, it means that depending on their academic background, applicants may be admitted into the system and granted a certain category. Centralization, it means that the evaluation of applications is carried out in a unified way at the national level and organized according to disciplinary areas. Focus on research, it means that although other activities such as teaching, third mission, knowledge transfer, and leadership may be considered in the process of evaluation, the evaluation is focused on research activities and outputs, mainly. Recognition, it means that the system provides its members with a symbolic and/or financial recognition. And finally, it has transitory nature because that membership is has a limited temporary validity, and there is no long-term stability associated with them. This is the definition of the concept we created to characterize and define what we found in Latin American countries. And what NRCS are not. NRCSs should be distinguished from academic career systems, competitive project funding, cash for publication schemes, performance-based research funding systems, and habilitation accreditation systems. NRCSs do not constitute stand-alone form of employment, but rather are an add-on to the traditional academic career. Unlike career systems, NRCSs operate at a national scale and focus almost exclusively on research activities. NRCSs should not be confused with project funding. Funding provided by these systems is fundamentally intended as a professional stimulus or salary bonus rather than fund to carry out research. It is also necessary to distinguish NRCS from other instruments that give rewards to individual researchers based on their research achievements, such as publication awards. These cash for publication schemes are common in countries such as China, for example, where they predominate at the institutional level, or Turkey, where there is a national program. The fundamental difference between NRCS and these incentive schemes lies in the object and scope of the support. While NRCS evaluate the past track record of researchers and their future research potential and award a category for a certain period of time, cash for publication schemes are linked to specific publications. And performance-based research funding systems operate at an institutional level, while these kind of systems, NRCS, operate at individual level. Finally, NRCSs should be distinguished from the accreditation, habilitation schemes found in Spain and Italy. While these systems applied only to hiring and promotion, accreditation and habilitation, NRCS provides regular monitoring of the careers of academics. On the other hand, most NRCSs offer monetary rewards to the beneficiaries, while accreditation does not offer funding, but only enables the applicant to enter a competitive selection process. So what we did, our methodology consists of the following activities. We conducted a detailed review of the academic literature on this kind of systems in the region. Then we compiled a lot of official documents through official websites. We revised rules, criteria, procedure, statistical data, available online or upon freedom of information request. Then we interview the informants in each country in order to confirm the information found or expand on it if necessary. And then in the empirical analysis, we explored around 20 countries of Latin American region. And in the first stage of the work, we identified 10 systems that aim to classify researchers at a national level. And after a more detailed review, we decided to exclude from our analysis 3 systems, Peru, Venezuela, and the Dominican Republic, and focus on the other 7. Federico is going to talk about this exclusion, and he's going to show you a map and other schemes with more information. And based on the literature on research evaluation and our previous knowledge of the administrative procedures in Latin American science systems, we identified 9 characteristics that could help us to understand the structure. There you can see them. The structure and the variations that can be found within research categorization systems. Name of the system, managing institution, year of creation, frequency of calls, level of categories, benefit provided, size, disciplinary organization, and quotas. The results were systematized in the form of fact sheets, which were then made available to the public on the project's website. And well, I yield the floor to Federico to continue with this presentation. Thank
you. Thank you very much, Nerina. So, as Nerina just said, we built some fact sheets of each of the systems we analyzed, and then these fact sheets are posted on the website. I will show you just 1 second. So this is the website of the project, and then if you click on each of the countries, you get just the script. Everything is in Spanish. Sorry for that, we haven't translated it yet. And you have the main information. Sorry for the scrolling of the system, and we have also uploaded the official documents in our website, because official websites sometimes change over time and a lot of information is lost. So we have uploaded many of the documents into our website, and we have linked other papers and research that has been done on these particular systems by other colleagues. So going back to our presentation, so these are the systems we have in like first stage. We have focused on these 10 systems. Here they are ordered by the year of creation. I mean, we can see the first one was created in the 70s, and the last one is very recent. We have decided, after doing a first review, to exclude 3 of them, like Venezuela, Peru, and the Dominican Republic, because they were Venezuela's system is almost non-functional, so it's almost not working now, and the other 2 are like very new and are not yet like stabilized. They have been undergoing lots of changes, and it wasn't easy to have reliable information about them. So first glance, most of the systems work in the following way. You get a position at the university as a professor or teaching assistant, and then you apply to become a member of national researcher systems. It could be either the call may be annually, may open each year, or may open each 2 or 3 years or 4 years, depending on the system. And then you undergo an evaluation of your background, your papers, your mentoring history, all your CV, and they assign you a specific category. Some systems have 6 categories, others have 5 or 4 different categories, from like senior researcher, intermediate researcher, young researcher, or with numbers like level 1, level 2, level 3. And then when you finally get your category, you are allowed in most of the systems to get a monthly bonus, monthly economic bonus that is paid to you directly by the National Research Council. So your employer, your institution, your university is not directly involved in the payment of this bonus. And as you can see, this is very wide, the difference between some systems that do not provide any economic benefit, as in Colombia, and others that may grant until like $2,000 a month. So that is in US dollars. So for some systems, this economic benefit is very, very important, and in other systems, it's not so important, and the symbolic aspects of the reward are more important. When I say symbolic, I mean there's a lot of prestige associated with membership in this system. So it's not just to have to get extra money each month. It's also to be a member of like the elite of the research community of each country. So when we have analyzed how the evaluation procedures are conducted, there are very strong differences in the disciplinary divisions. Some countries like Brazil, that's the biggest country in the region, has 39 disciplinary areas, and others have, the smaller countries have like more, everything is more aggregated, like in Uruguay, Panama, or Paraguay. Only Mexico has a special commission for interdisciplinary research. The other countries don't have that. You have to be adscribed, you have to be a member of one specific disciplinary area. And then all of them, except Colombia, work with informed peer review. So they have peer commissions that meet and discuss the outputs and the CVs, and they also have access to some metrics. Metrics are more important in some of the countries and not so important in others. But the Colombian system is different. They don't have peer review. It's just some sort of algorithm that measures how many publications, where the journals are indexed, what impact factor of the journal, everything, and they it makes a calculation, and it puts a researcher in a specific category according to the output of the calculation. There are also some process in some countries for applied research and technological developments. So when a researcher has a profile that is not classic or academic and has other kind of outputs, so some countries have a specific or differentiated procedures for those kind of products or researchers. Only the Brazilian system has quotas, so that makes the Brazilian system different, stand out, and be different from the other. So only if you want to promote from one category to the next one, you have to wait that the slot is vacated in the next category, so you can move up. While in the other systems, there are no quotas. So if you meet certain requirements, you can be promoted there are no maximum seats in each category. And some of them work with scores and others don't. But even the ones that work without scores, maybe informally, they have some scores. No, that's also internally the commissions might have some scores. So what we also have, sorry for the noise, there's something going on. We have identified like 3 generations of systems. So a first generation of this Mexico, Brazil, and Colombia, they are not related. So each one like appeared in the context of each specific country, and they have a distinct history. So we couldn't find like many historical connection between them. But then the interesting part is this one, is that the Mexican system was very famous in the region, and a lot of the other systems were built based on the Mexican experience. So the systems of Argentina, Uruguay, Panama, Venezuela, that we haven't done in much detail, Venezuela, but it is part of this group. They were modeled after the Mexican experience. And Paraguay was modeled after the Uruguayan experience, but the Uruguayan experience was based on the Mexican experience. So there is a group of systems that share a lot of their categories or their characteristics more closely. And then we have other 2 systems, the Peruvian system and the Dominican system, which are somewhat different, and it wasn't so clear for us yet because they were undergoing lots of changes, so we didn't include them, but they are new and a bit different. So you can see a map. This includes only the ones that we analyzed in depth, and you can see in green the ones that were based the Mexican system, and the other that were based on the Mexican experience, and then the Colombian and the Brazilian system that they have a different genealogy or trajectory. Just moving into the discussion. So when we wanted to compare and characterize this national researcher categorization system and differentiate them from other kinds of incentives that researchers might get to engage more deeply or more closely in research, we find like three options or 3 strategies. The first one would be like an integrated or unified academic career where your incentives for performing research are connected to your home institution. This is what happens in the US and in most in the American research universities, where the tenure and promotion system is very heavily concerned with the research outputs and having faculty members that are very active in research. In Latin America, as Nerina said at the beginning of our presentation, this is not usually the case. Universities are much more concerned with teaching and teaching duties of academics, while research is not so central. Nevertheless, in Chile and Costa Rica are the 2 countries in Latin America where this is the way it works, with internal incentives that are based on the institution, the home institution requiring research outputs. Then we have this second way of the second strategy, that is where we can find this national researcher classification system, categorization systems, where they are complementary to the university or the home institution. And this is what we have just described. And then there is the case of Argentina that has also some similarities to what happens in France and in some French-speaking Belgium, where you have a research career that is that researchers work at universities, but they are employed by the National Research Council. This is another way, another different strategy to increase academic research at universities, but where the burden of planning, evaluation, and also the economic burden of paying to the researcher is completely outsourced from the university. And in the although most of the researchers in these research careers also teach at the university, not all of them do, not all of them mentor graduate students, so not all of them are involved in the university life as full-time academics are. So to wrap up this, so this second this complementarity strategy is what we found, or the way we have characterized these systems we have just described. So, and finally, just to as a conclusion, so what could be the effects of these kind of systems, or if these kinds of systems gain importance within a national science system or research system? So the first one is that if these systems become, and this is what has happened in some countries like Mexico, so when this NRCS become very important, and they are the most prestigious way, the most prestigious award a researcher can get. So he's focused only on research, and the teaching is not really so important. That is a problem that might be found in other regions as well without these systems. The other important thing is that these salary bonuses that are offered by these categorization systems are tax-free bonuses that are not counted towards medical insurance, towards retirement. So that means that in some countries, as in Mexico or in Paraguay, so most of the monthly income then becomes tax-free. It's not counted towards any of Social Security, and it's also transitory in nature. So that that may give researchers a sensation of a more precarious way of employment. Then the centralization. So these evaluation procedures within NRCS are at the national level. They are very big scale procedures. There's not much time for evaluators to assess each individual application. So it becomes very bureaucratized and not, although in paper it's informed peer review, in practice it's more bureaucratic in some cases, not every cases, but there is a growing risk of bureaucratization at all stages of the evaluation practice, the evaluation process. And finally, so decentralization also involves generates some distance from the actual conditions of a particular researcher at or academic at a specific university. So there might be some regional characteristics or some local characteristics of the institution that are not taken into account, because so as the evaluation is organized in a disciplinary way, so all people in sociology are evaluated with the same criteria nationwide, and thus that doesn't take into account some specific conditions that may have an academic at a specific region of the country, or a specific institution that might be focused on lower income students or some specific characteristic. And then finally, this centralization and this nationwide criteria, what happens is that these commissions, these evaluation commissions, tend to be controlled by a very traditional academic mindset of excellency and prestige and all mainstream publication in mainstream journals, and that might hinder the on the other hand, the governments also have science policies and risk and innovation policies that try to connect the research agenda to local issues or issues that they believe are more important for the economic development of the country. And this, that on the one hand, but on the other hand, these categorization systems tend to reinforce the very more like traditional publication-oriented profile of researchers. So we believe here there might be a tension between on the one hand, the discourse of science for economic development and innovation, and on the other hand, a policy that reinforces a very classical model of an academic. So this is more or less all we had to share with you, and we thank you very much for your attention, and we are open for any question, clarification, comment that you might have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nerina and Federico. It was really, really interesting, and I do believe that there will be many questions. And please raise your hand if you would like to comment or ask the question. Waiting for the first question, I would just to ask you for a minor clarification regarding the motivation for establishing those systems, especially those three first, which are quite old. And it's really interesting that they push researchers to do more research, if I understand correctly. Could you please tell me what was the main motivation for establishing those categorization systems in, for example, Mexico and Brazil?
So in the Mexican case, there was a brain drain problem. There was at the time of high inflation within the country. So many of the salaries were very low at universities, and many researchers were leaving for the US or for other countries. And this was originally a way of a retention policy. To retain researchers within the country, they decided to add a salary bonus, but not for all of them, not for all academics, just for the ones that were doing good research, or they aimed. They didn't have money for a salary. How do you call it? A salary raise like nationwide. So they decide, okay, we will only give specific bonuses to the academics that are performing good, that are like excelling somehow. So that was the context of the creation of the Mexican system. In the case of Brazil, it's not as well studied as in Mexico. So the Mexican system is the one that has like lots of studies and papers about it, because it had a very big importance, also regionally, as we have described. In the case of Brazil, what the official document said is related to the visibility of the country's publications. So it was thought as a way of enhancing the quality and the level of the country's scientific output.
Okay, now I understand. Thank you.
So the context might be very different. That's a comment that we usually receive. So there's very interesting structural similarities between the systems, but when you go into the specific country history and all the details, they are like very, very different. The trend is not the same in each case.
Okay, thank you. I understand. Noela.
Okay.
Nerina, please.
I was thinking that something we haven't go in depth yet is the government in each country that created each system For example, in Mexico, in Venezuela, Argentina, and in Uruguay, Paraguay, there were democratic governments, for example. And in the case of Brazil, in the year of the creation of the system, there was a military dictatorship, for example. So I think we have to take into account the in future works, no, the kind of policies these systems adopt to the science system in general, to see if this kind of dimensions could have some relevance or not in the creation of this kind of systems, to see why they are different, for example, no? Different families of systems. That's all.
Noela, welcome.
Hi, how are you? First, congratulations, Emmanuel and colleagues, for this series of seminar, which I came to know today, and I hope I receive more invitations once we register for one seminar. Well, I was wondering, I mean, I was thinking now about the motivations of the Brazilian systems, which I don't know, certainly is not to retain people, because the amount of money you receive in Brazil is very, very low. It's much more a system of prestige and like a gate, a threshold that allows you to apply to different fundings and things. But my question is on another topic. When you considered the structural effects of the research systems, you didn't pay much attention on interdisciplinarity. And this is a topic that is quite important because, as you have seen, you have showed, in Brazil, we have 39 areas of knowledge. So it is the most disciplinary, strongly disciplinary, I would even say corporative system of evaluation. And in spite of every area highlighting the importance of transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary, etc., it is a barrier to interdisciplinary work. And it is a barrier that is quite complicated because in Brazil, the system of research is also structured in a very strong way by the assessment of the graduate research and teaching system. So the pressure to be interdisciplinary is important in the graduate system, but the system of rewards in the research system does not. I mean, it's completely disciplinary. Maybe we are seeing now a turning point because the quality system, which is the categorization of journals with the points attributed to the different journal publications, this year started a change, given the same punctuation for journals attributed by the mother area. For instance, if a journal in sociology is given the maximum punctuation in sociology, the same punctuation will be given for a person from the engineering field that publish in this same journal. Before that, the journals had different punctuations in each disciplinary area. So maybe it is a change. But I wonder if you had the chance to research what are the structural effects of the systems on interdisciplinary research.
So we not in the level of effect, but when we described the system, we found that that was an issue because the structure of all of the system is very disciplinary. In the case of Mexico, they built an interdisciplinary area that it's a bit of a paradox because they built, everyone was asking for an interdisciplinary area so my work is interdisciplinary, I want to be assessed as an interdisciplinary scholar. And then they built this area and nobody is applying there because they are not sure they tend then researchers still prefer to apply to the traditional areas because they know the rules there, and they think that interdisciplinary areas might have unknown rules, and they are somehow afraid of that. So it's a challenge. And just as a last comment, so I think this like more disciplinary orientation of the systems is when we said that we think these systems are like promoting a classical model of academic or more traditional academic model of researcher. So that includes also the interdisciplinary, the disciplinary component of a traditional academic career. And there are tensions, of course, with other science policies or research policies that might go in other directions.
Thank you. Zehra, now you.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. Thank you for this presentation. I love it because I'm living in Turkey and I am facing with similar incentive systems in Turkey, as Nerina explained. In Turkey, we have very similar incentive systems. One is additional bonus to our salary, and the other is incentive payment. If you publish a paper in an impact factor journal, you can have money. It's determined by the impact factor of the journals. If the impact factor is higher, you get more money. If it is lower, the incentive is lower. But this system, the scientific research show that this system does not contribute to the quality of papers or number of publications in high impact factor journals. It increased the number of low quality publications in Turkey, and it is not good for Turkish higher education system. This is the scientific research, the research findings. But I'm wondering, what is the situation in Latin American countries? You show some examples of Latin American countries, and some of them use these kind of incentive systems. Are there any consequences of these kind of systems in Latin American countries, or what are the main consequences of it? I'm wondering if it is special for Turkey or it is common for the countries that use this kind of incentive systems.
Well, what we identify is that this kind of systems are called cash for publication, and it is particularly implemented in Costa Rica and in Chile. They only pay to the researcher if they publish in some kind of journal, as you said. And the other system is what we have called National Researcher Categorization System. And in this case, it is different between each system, how publication is valued according to the impact of its publication. For example, some countries use national rankings, as Noela said, Qualis, and Colombia has a very important or very rigorous system of evaluation of publication. But other countries, like in Argentina, for example, in the system of national researcher categorization, the evaluation of publications are not very rigorous in the evaluation. I mean, in most of the disciplines, you can publish in a journal indexed in international indexes, but you don't have to have a lot of publications in very prestigious systems. Federico, I don't know if you want to add some some things about publications and the system of journals?
So I think one of the differences between this idea of cash for publication and the categorization systems we have in Latin America is that the categorization systems, it's not about individual papers, it's about your trajectory and your profile. So if you just publish in low impact journals, the evaluator is not just counting beans, it's just like building an image of who you are. So if you publish in low impact journals sometimes and high impact journals the other time, so he's like building an image of you as a researcher. So it's not just a picture of one day, it's like your trajectory. So I think there are it's more nuanced, the evaluation. Yeah, within a bureaucratized system. So it's not like in the US where you have, you go out for tenure or for promotion, you have lots of external reviewers looking at your package and reviewing everything in depth. No, it's not that kind of thing. It's still bureaucratized, but it's not just like a checklist. So if the journal is there, you can get the money and you can get this specific amount of money. It's a bit more based on your profile.
Yeah, but what is the most important part of your profile? Is it publications or is it projects, funding, the amount of funding money, or what else? Because in Turkey, it is article in high impact journal. But
yeah,
what about
it?
It is okay.
It is that, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Everywhere.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
If you have more questions or comments, please raise your hand, just clicking reactions. Okay, I see. Gabriela.
Yes, hello. Hi, thank you for giving the possibility of the outsiders to come too. I was wondering on an administrative level, how these committees that give out the classifications are organized. Who is the person who is conducting the peer review? Is it a ministry clerk, or how is it organized on the administrative level?
Yeah. So they are researchers. It's not a bureaucratic review, although it becomes bureaucratized. The people doing the review are researchers. And in most cases, they are also members of the systems. You can only become an evaluator within the system if you are also a member of the system. So that's the way it works now. Maybe when it started, like at the first time, there were no members, so they built like a specific like honorary commissions or something like that. But
and
now
who chooses the commission?
In most of the cases, it's self-governed by the members. So there is there are some coordination of some areas, and they choose researchers within that areas. So it works like not more or less like grant review, where you have panels for specific areas that are appointed maybe by some political some political authority, but in practice they work as the academic community. That's why also they tend to foster, to promote this more traditional profile of researcher, because it's the same. It is researchers acting as evaluators in all cases.
Okay, thank you.
In the case of Colombia, the evaluation is automatic. It's automatic. So they meet, a commission meet every 2 years before the call and review the manual to categorize and the criteria from each area. And then when you apply, you fill a form. You fill an application, and an algorithm and a formula or algorithm is applied to the evaluation. And in the moment, there is no commission, and one can think that this system is very quickly with the results, no, but it has a lot of critics because of the information it uses is only quantitative, no? Thanks.
I would like to ask you about the members of those categorization, that is, those researchers who are categorized. Do they constitute in some countries something like an academy or corporation or some umbrella organization? Because to some extent, some features of those systems resembles some Academy of Sciences in sense of corporation, like in the French Academy of Sciences or Russian Academy of Sciences, when you choose the best researchers to, for example, serve the country, and they work at the universities, but at the same time, they are paid monthly by the academies. And I wonder whether in Argentina or Mexico, there is some, I don't want to call it association of the members, but rather some official organization which combine the forces of those people.
So it's interesting you raised this idea of the academies of Russia or France, because we didn't take that into account as another way of so we'll look into that. Not that I am aware of. So it's that they are members of the systems and they are very proud of being members of the system, and they sometimes serve as evaluators within those systems, but as a sort of union or association of, no, not that I'm aware of, no. Although even though there is a feeling, how you say, of belonging. So that's important. There is so we are all member of this. We are kind of the elite of the country, the best in the country. So there is a feeling or a sense of belonging, being a member of some select club, but not as a formal association.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Zehra, I see you again.
Yeah, because your idea about the science academy, I think that this kind of classification categorization system can be used for finding emergent areas of science, trending areas, and create new networks for researchers in academia. I think you can use this as a function of this categorization system. Do you have any plans for doing that? For example, for antique DNA fields, many researchers from different areas work for antique DNA subject, anthropologists and health scientists and so on. And with your categorization system, you have the profiles of each researchers, and you can create new networks with the help of this categorization system. Is it possible with your profiles, do you think?
I mean, we as researchers build those, or that's not that was not an aim of the policy itself. So I don't think the governments are thinking about using this information for that purpose, and we haven't done that. Some of them are more open. They have more like open data. Some, but it's not so. So the data available to the public, it's not a lot. So, for example, you can see the name of the researcher, the institution where he or she works, the discipline, and the category. Like Emmanuel works in philosophy in Poznan and has level 1, but you don't you don't have a lot of detail about the at least publicly at the research topics everyone is no.
Very short question. Are you categorized? Do you have your own categories?
Yes. Yes.
So, what does it mean for you as an individual researchers to have those categories? Just the personal perspective, the professional personal perspective, because now we to some extent understand this big picture, but for you as active researchers, what this actually means for you?
So
do you want to start?
Go ahead.
No, what actually is happens in Argentina is that yesterday was open a call for the new system, the new categorization research categorization system, and all who wants to apply can present to be categorized. And the last call was 8 years ago. So one of the problems is that when you applied 8 years ago, you have you have your CV, and you got your category 4 years later. So it is not actually really what you not represent your achievements in research. So that's one of the critiques in our system. In my case, for example, I applied in 2011, and then in the next call, I couldn't apply because it wasn't allowed. So I'm going to apply 11 years later, and well, the system is a bit different, and well, that's what I think, and we have to see these systems, the benefits and the disadvantage of these new systems. We have to wait for the implementation of the process of evaluation and so on.
Yes, so in Argentina, as Nerina said, that the system has been recently changed. We didn't account for those changes in the article because they are very recent. But it is also the case that we have this standalone career of only that are like both Nerina and I are member of the CONICET career of researchers. It's like a different thing. So we are like staff researchers of this National Research Council, and we are also professors at the university and are also categorized in this system. So we are like having many hats, and that's one part of how it works here. So you get they are not all employments, but they are all like membership in things that you have to have them all to be. And then I also, as a personal experience, I was also member of the Mexican system when I was living in Mexico for my postdoc. So in Mexico, it works much more like smoothly. All the calls are every year, and you get everything on time, and also the payments are mostly done on time, not unlike what happens in Argentina. And it's like in Mexico, it's your, how to say, it's something you say when you're presenting yourself. So I'm a professor here, and I am a member of the system level 1, level 2. So it's something that's embedded in your identity, your academic identity, very much strongly, much stronger than what happens in Argentina. And also, as a last comment, it's also an important thing if you are you want to change jobs in Mexico. So it's not because the category is yours. It's not of the university, it's yours. So if you want to move to another university, or they may offer you a job because you are a member of the system in that category. So it's also an asset to you for the job market. But that's in Mexico, that's not the case in Argentina. I don't know in Brazil. Maybe Noela has an insight on that.
In terms of money, it is a very, very low amount of money. It is much more about prestige and applying to grants. And I mean, I would say that it is like, yeah, of course, if you are high in the system, you will present it as an asset, but the system is quite fixed here. We don't have this kind of mobility within the academic system. You have to start your career all over again if you want to, change to another university. So it is not the case, I think, and differently from Argentina or Mexico, since the money is low. I mean, it's just prestige. And if you consider, I mean, the country is huge, and the number of researchers, of course, is low in comparison with the population of the country. But the number of people that are within the system, the productivity scholarships is the name they get, is very, very, very low. So yeah, you're a researcher within the system. This is just prestige, I think. Or you present it just as prestige. Of course, it is important since you get to apply to funding. You get to apply to travel grants for conference and things like this. But it is different from Argentina or Mexico, because there the money is important. So it is. I think that the system in Mexico or Argentina, in a sense, contribute more to the precariousness of the academic jobs, because if you are not in the systems, you are paid a very low, a very different amount of money. Here, the level of salaries is done, at least among the federal university, is the same for all, whether you are in the system or you're not. I mean, the compensation is less than 10% of the salary. So it works differently in this sense. It's like as they say, is like the high church and the low church. It provokes a lot of divisions within the academy, but in other senses, not in the economic sense.
If you have questions, please just raise hand. And in the meantime, I would like to use this time and ask you one more question regarding the language of the output, which is evaluated in those different procedures, because you have presented this idea as a, I would say, new type of regional systems, and it's the only type in which, except Brazil, there is one language, I would say. So there is Spanish, and I wonder whether in those systems are some incentives to cooperate between countries in Latin America, or it's just based on Web of Science or Scopus, and it's like in Europe that you have to publish in journal index papers in journals indexed in Web of Science or Scopus, or maybe in Argentina or in Brazil or in Mexico there are some criteria which push researchers to collaborate with colleagues from Latin America, or there is no such issues?
So let me show you one slide that I didn't include in the last version of the presentation. So that is very dependent on the discipline. So you have in the hard sciences or in the natural sciences, it's mostly only so wait, this one. So here you can see what kind of metrics are included in the criteria of each system. So all of them, or some of them, like the Argentina, it doesn't mention anything. It's not that it doesn't mention the impact factor, it just doesn't mention any metrics. But most of them mention metrics, and they all mention the impact factor or Scopus version of the impact factor, or some of them include the Google the Google Scholar H5 Index. Some are taking into account how many total citations does a researcher have. So it's very have a very big diversity. But it is common that in the social sciences there is like publication in Spanish or Portuguese are important. They are valued. And Cielo is the most, I think, the most prestigious seal for a journal in Latin America that publishes in Spanish, at least at regional level, is Cielo. So that is taken into account. But in the social sciences and the humanities, in the natural sciences, it's the Scopus and Web of Science. And Colombia and Brazil are the only countries that have a specific journal classification system. So we have been talking about researcher classification system. So you as a person get a category, but in Brazil and in Colombia, you also have another systems that have different names that they classify journals. And some journals might get some incentives to improve editorial processes based on how they rank in this other journal categorization systems. So that's connected, but somehow a different topic.
Okay, I understand it better. Thank you. Do we have any more questions or comments? I don't see any hands raised. So I would just like to thank you once again, Nerina and Federico, for your excellent presentation, for joining us today and show us how the perspective of Latin America can be presented in a very, very nice and clear way, and how can enrich our thinking about research evaluation systems. As you mentioned before the seminar, for me it's extremely interesting to see this bird-eye view on those classifications, especially they are so different from European perspective. And just one more thing, if you would like to have more information about our seminar, I just put in the chat a link to our newsletter. We publish it only when we have something to announce, so it's not a spam. Please join the newsletter and see you hopefully soon during our next seminars. Thank you once again, and thank you all for joining us. See you. Have a nice day.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.